The city's skyline was a tapestry of fading twilight, a view Julian Mercer had paid a fortune to own. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, a silhouette of sharp lines and repressed energy. His phone buzzed on the marble console, an insistent, shrill sound in the quiet penthouse. A name glowed on the screen, Leo. Julian closed his eyes, the ghost of a long day clinging to him. He knew what this call meant. It was always about Chase. He answered, his voice a practiced calm that felt like a second skin. "Leo, what's wrong?" A muffled sob crackled through the line. "Julian, Chase turned me down again. He said it's just not there. I'm at the Velvet and I can't stop the tears. Can you come? Please?" A flicker of irritation, pure and personal, sparked behind Julian's ribs. He glanced at the chrome clock on the wall. It was past 1 in the morning. He had a merger negotiation in 7 hours. The part of him that remembered a different life, a life of unapologetic indulgence, wanted to snap, to ask if Leo had any concept of time or boundaries. A silent, internal command, cold and mechanical, overrode the impulse. Maintain the parameters. You are the unwavering support, the unattainable one who is only attainable for him. Julian inhaled, the air tasting of sterile, filtered perfection. "Of course. Stay where you are. I'm on my way." The drive to the upscale cocktail lounge was a blur of neon and shadow. Julian's hands were steady on the wheel of the luxury sedan, but his mind was elsewhere, adrift in the contradiction of his existence. He was playing a role, one he'd been cast in when the system was desperate. The tragic, self-sacrificing best friend, hopelessly in love with the beautiful, oblivious Leo. His purpose was to be a pedestal, a safety net, until Leo found his happy ending with the story's true lead, Chase Harrington. Then, according to the script, Julian's company would be dismantled, his leg broken in a convenient accident arranged by a jealous Chase. A neat, brutal conclusion to his arc. The role demanded celibacy. It demanded a love so quiet it was almost silent. It was a form of starvation. The Velvet was all dark wood and low lighting. Leo was slumped at the bar, his blonde hair falling into glassy eyes. He looked like a fallen angel, a perception Julian was meant to reinforce. "You shouldn't drink so much," Julian said, his voice softening as he approached, the mask seamlessly settling into place. He guided the half-empty glass away. "Let me take you home." Leo shook his head, tears welling anew. "What's wrong with me, Julian? Why can't he see me? I'd do anything for him. Anything." The words were a dull blade, twisted with routine. Julian placed a careful hand on Leo's shoulder, feeling the tremble beneath the expensive fabric of his shirt. "He's the one who's blind. In my eyes, you are exceptional." The line felt like ash in his mouth. "You're drunk. Let me get you home." Getting Leo into the car and then to his luxury apartment building was a physical struggle. Leo leaned heavily against him, his warmth seeping through Julian's tailored coat. At the doorway to Leo's apartment, Julian's throat was parched. The night air was cool. "Leo," he began, his voice carefully neutral. "May I come in for a glass of water?" Leo's gaze sharpened momentarily, a flash of wariness cutting through the drunken haze. He took a small step back, creating distance. After a pause that stretched too long, he murmured, maybe it's better if you don't." The door closed with a definitive click. Julian stood in the corridor, the hollow sound echoing in the emptiness of his own chest. The rejection was part of the script, but tonight it didn't feel like acting. Felt like a genuine wound. Instead of returning to his sterile penthouse, he went back to the Velvet. The system was in a low-power cycle, dormant. This was a window, a chance to breathe, to be something other than a ghost of devotion. His eyes scanned the room, a hunter's gaze despite his composed exterior. And then he saw him, a man sitting alone at a corner table, surveying the room with an air of casual ownership. Dark hair, a strong jaw, eyes that seemed to absorb the low light. He wore a simple silver band on his right hand. His build, even seated, suggested power held in check. Julian felt a jolt, a visceral recognition of a compatible predator. In that instant, he didn't think about storylines or parameters. He thought about being seen, about being taken apart. He ordered a whiskey, sipping it slowly, letting the burn ground him. He wondered how to approach. A comment on the jazz trio? Too vague.
À directe proposition?
It thrilled him, but the ghost of his constructed persona flinched. The man's gaze found his. Julian quickly looked away, catching his own reflection in the dark window. The black turtleneck, the perfectly styled hair, the expression of aloof control. Fortress. Would it seem unassailable or a challenge? He drank more than he intended, the alcohol hitting his system with unfamiliar force. This body, it seemed, wasn't built for this. When he stood, the room tilted. He swayed, reaching for the bar to steady himself. A presence materialized beside him. A hand, warm and firm, settled under his elbow. Need some help? The voice was a low rumble. Julian shook his head, trying to clear it. I'm fine. He attempted to step away, but his legs betrayed him, sending him stumbling back against a solid chest. An arm encircled him, holding him upright. Julian felt the man's breath against his temple, sensed a subtle, telling shift in the man's posture. A flicker of triumph cut through the fog in his mind. The memories of what followed were fragmented, sensory flashes. The cool leather of a car seat, the elevator ride up to a hotel suite, the world a blur of gold and marble. The man's hands, confident and demanding, unknotting his own silk tie, using it to bind Julian's wrists. The whispered words that were both command and praise, heard in the dark. The loss of control was not a surrender. It was a liberation, a feast after a long famine. He woke to morning light filtering through unfamiliar blinds. He was alone in the bed, the sheets cool. His body ached in a deeply satisfying way, a map of the night written on his skin. He dressed with methodical precision, the black turtleneck hiding the marks on his neck. From his wallet, he counted out a stack of crisp bills. The man emerged from the bathroom, a towel around his waist, his gaze amused and intense. In a hurry? The man asked, his smile knowing. Julian didn't meet his eyes. He placed the money on the dresser. For your time, he stated, his voice hoarse. Last night never happened. The man looked at the cash, then back at Julian, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. Julian didn't wait for a response. He walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. On the street, the cool air was a balm. He felt sated, centered. The gnawing emptiness was gone. He could play his part again. He stopped at a drugstore for a large bandage, applying it to the most visible mark on his collarbone. Perfect. The facade was restored. Back at his office, his assistant reminded him of Leo's birthday gala that evening. Julian had orchestrated every detail, as he had for the past 2 years. Leo had called earlier, excited, asking if he could invite some people Julian might not know. Julian, of course, had agreed. The party was held at a modern art museum, the spaces filled with sculptures and soft conversation. Julian lingered near a refreshment table, watching Leo glow under the attention. He allowed a carefully curated expression of lonely devotion to settle on his features. It was part of the performance. Then Leo's entire demeanor changed. His eyes widened, a blush creeping up his neck. He grabbed Julian's arm, his voice a whisper. Julian, look. He came. Chase actually came. Julian followed his gaze across the room, and the world tilted on its axis. There, holding a crystal tumbler, was the man from the hotel. Chase Harrington, the story's male lead. His future ruin. Chase's eyes found his, and a spark of recognition ignited, followed by a smirk that was intimately familiar. He began walking toward them. Leo was practically vibrating. He's coming over. Do I look okay? Julian managed a strangled, you're perfect. Chase stopped before them, his attention fixed on Julian. He opened his mouth to speak. "Chase," Leo interjected, stepping forward, a bright, nervous smile on his face. "I'm so glad you made it. This is the best birthday ever." Chase's eyes flickered to Leo briefly before returning to Julian. He noted the bandage on Julian's collarbone, his smile deepening. "What happened here? You get hurt?" "It's nothing," Julian said, his voice tight. "A minor accident." Leo glanced between them, confused. "Do you two know each other?" "No," Julian said too quickly. Chase's expression cooled. "Oh, we're strangers?" he drawled. The amusement was still there, but edged with something darker. "My mistake. I could have sworn we were acquainted." "You're not still upset about last night, are you?" "I didn't mean to be rough." Leo stared, bewildered. "Last night?" Julian's mind raced. "We had a disagreement," he said flatly. "Professional one. It got heated." Chase raised an eyebrow, his look promising retribution for the lie. Leo, however, pulled Julian aside, his face etched with sudden anxiety. "Julian," he whispered urgently, "you and Chase had a fight? You can't be on bad terms with him. You know how I feel. If he's upset with you, it might reflect on me. Whatever it is, you need to fix it. Apologize. Make it right. For me." Julian looked at Leo, at the sheer self-absorption in his pleading eyes. The script demanded compliance. "All right, Leo," he heard himself say. "For you." Leo beamed and dragged him back. "Chase, it's all good. Julian wants to clear the air." Chase produced his phone. "Great. Let's start with contacts." He held Julian's gaze, a silent challenge. Julian added him. The evening unfolded with Leo clinging to Chase's every word, while Chase's attention kept drifting back to Julian with a speculative, hungry look. During dinner at Leo's apartment later that week, a rare invitation that Julian now understood was a setup so Chase could discuss business. The dynamic grew more strained. The table was laden with shellfish. Julian, who was allergic, said nothing as Leo eagerly served Chase. Chase watched Julian. "I heard you have a shellfish allergy, Julian." Leo paused, a flicker of guilt quickly masked by irritation. "You do? You never mentioned it." "It's fine," Julian said, the old script flowing automatically. "Don't worry about me." At a prompt from the guiding system in his mind, Julian began meticulously peeling shrimp for Leo, an act of servile devotion. Leo immediately transferred the peeled shrimp to Chase's plate. Under the table, a polished leather shoe brushed against Julian's ankle. He flinched. The contact became more deliberate, a slow, maddening pressure sliding up his calf. Julian's body, hypersensitive from a lifetime in a different genre of story, reacted instantly. His hand jerked, tipping a glass of burgundy onto Chase's lap. Leo gasped. "Julian, look what you've done." Chase merely smiled. "No harm. Might I use your shower?" After Chase left, Leo hissed at Julian about his clumsiness, about ruining the moment. Julian simply arranged for fresh clothes to be delivered. When they arrived, Chase called from the bathroom, "Julian, can you hand these in?" Julian cracked the door, arm extended. A strong hand shot out, grabbing his wrist and yanking him into the steam-filled room. He collided with a wet, solid chest. "What are you doing?" Julian hissed, pushing back, his eyes inadvertently taking in the powerful lines of Chase's body. Chase's gaze was intense. "Those hands," he murmured, his voice low. "They're wasted on peeling shrimp. They deserve better things to hold on to." He stepped closer. "He's a child. He can't comprehend what you need." "I can. I have." "This is his home," Julian protested weakly, the steam and proximity making him dizzy. "A home you bought him," Chase countered. "He uses you. You know it. He loves me and you're just convenient." "My choices are my own," Julian said, pulling away. "What happened was a mistake. It ends here." He fled the bathroom, making a flimsy excuse about spilling water on himself to a confused Leo, borrowing a shirt before making his escape. The system in his mind was frantic after Julian confessed the one-night stand. "You slept with the male lead?" It shrieked before calming, noting that the core parameters frustratingly remained intact. "Maintain distance. He's just toying with you." The distance proved impossible. Chase's messages were relentless, culminating in a thinly veiled threat. "Move in with me, or I tell Leo everything." Cornered, Julian agreed. To his shock, Chase wasn't seeking a mere physical arrangement. He began to court him with a disarming seriousness. He cooked gourmet meals, battling Julian's habitual disinterest in food. He would find him asleep, blankets kicked away, and quietly cover him again. He insisted on drying Julian's hair after showers, his fingers gentle in the strands. Once, during this ritual, he pressed his lips to the nape of Julian's neck. A shiver, electric and unbidden, ran down Julian's spine. His heart performed a strange, stumbling rhythm. It was then that Leo's specific ringtone pierced the moment. Julian answered on instinct, his voice shifting seamlessly into its dedicated, tender register. "Leo? What is it?" Leo's voice was petulant. "That cashmere sweater you borrowed. I want it back. Soon. You didn't do anything weird with it, did you?" Julian closed his eyes. "No, Leo. I didn't." The call ended. Chase had gone very still. After all that, he said, his voice cold, "You still choose him?" The role forced Julian's answer. "Yes." Chase left the room. Julian assumed it was over, a strange pang of loss hitting him. But he returned that evening, jaw set, and proceeded to silently, aggressively, do the laundry, including Julian's personal items. It became a pattern. Any contact from Leo would be met with a possessive, overwhelming physical reclamation from Chase. It was a brutal, effective conditioning, a war fought on the landscape of Julian's body and loyalties. One afternoon, Leo's ringtone blared again. Before Julian could move, Chase was there, snatching the phone and pinning Julian to the plush sofa. "Ignore it," Chase growled against his skin, his hands firm. "Look at me. Only me." Julian struggled, but the fight was half-hearted, complicated by a traitorous part of him that thrilled at the command. A key turned in the front door lock. Leo stood in the foyer, his face draining of color as he took in the scene on the couch. Julian shoved Chase away, scrambling up. "Leo, I can explain." "You're disgusting," Leo whispered, the words sharp with betrayal and a fury he'd never directed at Chase. Chase stood, placing himself slightly in front of Julian. "Leo," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "Let's be clear. I'm in love with Julian. I have no obligation to love you." He recounted the night at the hotel, the coercion, the threats. "He did everything for you. He built this life for you. And you never once saw him. You just took. At least I want him. All of him." Leo's face crumpled. He wanted to. It was his choice. "Chase, I love you. How can you say these things to me?" He turned and fled, sobbing. The system's voice was a monotone of defeat. Narrative integrity compromised. Abort protocol recommended. Julian, however, ran after Leo, the programming driving his legs. He caught up to him at a busy intersection. "Leo, please. I hate you." Leo screamed, shoving Julian hard in his chest. Julian stumbled backward, off the curb. Tires screeched. Headlights blinded him. He braced for impact. A force slammed into him from the side, throwing him back onto the sidewalk. The sound was sickening. A heavy thud, tearing metal, shattering glass. Julian looked up. Chase lay in the street, motionless, a dark pool spreading beneath him. Time fractured. The ambulance ride, the hospital waiting room with its antiseptic smell and relentless fluorescent lights. It was all a numb nightmare. The system offered empty comforts about moving on to another story, a return to his old, uncomplicated life. Julian couldn't form words in response. A single, brutal truth echoed in the silence of his mind. If Chase died, nothing else mattered. The carefully constructed persona, the mission, the fear of dissolution, it all crumbled to dust. He realized, with a terrifying clarity, that he had never truly lived until now, and the man who made him feel alive was dying. When the doctor finally emerged, the news was cautious. Survival but coma. Uncertainty. Julian didn't leave the hospital room. He watched the slow rise and fall of Chase's chest, the only proof of life. He thought of the meals cooked just for him, the warm air from the hair dryer, the stubborn laundry, the furious, possessive love that refused to let him hide. One night, exhaustion and grief overwhelming him, he let the tears fall silently. A rough, weak thumb brushed his cheek. Julian's eyes flew open. Chase was looking at him, his gaze hazy but focused. "Don't," Chase rasped, each word an effort. "Don't cry for me. Ever." Julian clutched his hand, a dam breaking inside him. "If you get better," he whispered, the promise raw and real, stripping away every pretense, "we can be together." For real. Chase's eyes widened. A ghost of his old smile touched his lips. Yes, he breathed the word of vow. His recovery was swift, a testament to his innate force. The dynamic between them transformed. Julian stopped financing Leo's life. The apartment was leased to strangers. When Leo, drowning in debt and consequences, came to him pleading, offering a relationship now that Chase was in the picture, Julian felt nothing but a distant pity. Chase wrapped an arm around Julian's waist, his voice leaving no room for debate. "He's mine, Leo. Your mess is your own. Don't come back." Later, the system communicated one last time, its tone bright with surprise. The audience response, it's overwhelmingly positive. "They're rooting for you too. The 3-year limitation, it's been waived. My work here is done. Be happy." One evening, they were curled together on the couch, a black and white film playing unnoticed. The city lights glittered beyond the windows, a galaxy at their feet. Sometimes, Chase murmured into Julian's hair, his arms tightening, "I still think I'm dreaming. That you'll wake up and remember you're supposed to be in love with a ghost." Julian tilted his head back to look at him. The face that was once a threat, then a temptation, was now simply home. "No ghosts," he said softly. "Just you." He leaned up and kissed him, not as a character following a plot, but as a man choosing his own story. Outside, the endless city hummed, but inside, there was only the solid, steady rhythm of a shared heartbeat, finally at peace.